Two big things have just happened, with an equally profound impact on how AI affects us. Google DeepMind has published a 57-page paper on what comes after AGI. Not how to reach AGI, not when it arrives, rather what happens next. The people who wrote this paper include the co-founder of DeepMind and the scientist who invented the core theory behind modern AI, and they are treating AGI in a totally different perspective. And in the same time span, OpenAI confirmed it is rebuilding ChatGPT from the ground up, turning it from a place you go to ask questions into something much bigger than it already is. Now, both these stories are about the same underlying shift. AI is totally changing. And the scale at which that is about to happen is what I want to dig into right now. Let us get straight into it. Let us start with the first big thing, Google DeepMind paper. Because the framing of it alone is worth understanding before we get to any of the actual content. The paper is called From AGI to ASI. Not how to get to AGI, not a timeline for when AGI arrives. From AGI to ASI. The authors are treating human-level AI as a point of departure, not a destination. The people behind it are Shane Legg, who co-founded DeepMind alongside Demis Hassabis and Mustafa Suleyman, plus Marcus Hutter, the scientist who invented the AI-XI theory, and 12 other researchers at the top of the field. This is not a speculative blog post. It is a serious attempt to map territory we are approaching. And the very first section of this paper stopped me when I read it. It is not titled Introduction. It is titled Summary Instructions. And those instructions are not written for human readers. They are written for AI systems that might be called upon to summarize the paper on a human's behalf. The authors tell these future AI readers to clarify definitions, not compress the lists, and judge whether the conclusions still hold up. That is the first time I am aware of academic authors writing a paper that is explicitly partially addressed to AI. If that does not tell you something about where we are, I do not know what does. To better understand everything, let's have a look at the definitions because they matter a lot here. AGI in this paper is not the Hollywood version. It is not a superintelligence system that can do everything. It is a system that performs at roughly the median human level across most cognitive tasks, average person level across most things, not just one domain. If an AI can reason, learn, plan, communicate, use tools, and adapt to new situations at that level, it qualifies as AGI under their definition. ASI is something else entirely. To qualify as artificial superintelligence under their framework, a system needs to outperform tens of thousands of top human experts working well coordinated for an entire decade on a single problem and do this across virtually every domain simultaneously. Not one expert in one field, an entire coordinated field of 10,000 people going all in for 10 years, and the AI has to match or exceed that output. That is the bar. There is a third level they mention, which they call universal AI or AI-XI, the theoretical absolute ceiling of intelligence. Mathematically proven, but impossible to actually compute. You can only approach it, never reach it. Like the speed of light, but for intelligence. The paper then lays out 4 pathways from AGI to ASI, and I want to walk you through each one because the way they describe them is more nuanced than the typical scaling will do it narrative. The first pathway is pure scaling. More compute, bigger models, more data. This is the one everyone already knows. The paper runs a thought experiment. If, when AGI arrives, there are 1,000 instances running globally, and you apply a 10 times annual growth rate, after 5 years, you have 100 million instances. And here is the insight that makes that number more interesting than it first sounds. 100 million AGIs operating at average human level are not just 100 million separate workers. They share knowledge instantly. They communicate at high bandwidth. They copy themselves perfectly. They coordinate in ways humans cannot manage through meetings and emails and training programs. One instance figures something out, and potentially all 100 million know it immediately. That collective, even if each unit is only human level individually, could easily qualify as ASI in aggregate. But the data wall is real. Human-generated content, text, code, images, scientific papers, is not growing at the same rate AI training appetite is growing. The paper does not say this will definitely stop progress. Synthetic data and self-play exist as workarounds, but it acknowledges that naive training on AI-generated content degrades quality quickly. The second pathway is algorithmic paradigm shifts. Not just bigger versions of what we have, but fundamentally different architectures. New training methods, new memory systems, new forms of reasoning. The problem is that paradigm shifts are essentially impossible to predict before they happen. If we knew what the next breakthrough was, it would not be a breakthrough. But if one happens, all the forecasts based on current scaling would become wrong almost overnight. The third pathway is recursive self-improvement. AI helping to improve AI research, which produces better AI, which helps even more with research. The paper is careful here and does not describe this as a single dramatic explosion. It describes it as potentially gradual and distributed. AI could help write better algorithms, discover better architectures, design more efficient chips, improve data pipelines, curate training sets. But it also notes that even digital researchers cannot skip physical bottlenecks. A new chip still has to be manufactured. A biology experiment still takes real time. Energy is finite. Progress might accelerate and still hit walls. The fourth pathway is the one I think is most underrated, and it connects directly to the ChatGPT story I'm about to tell you: multi-agent collectives. Instead of asking whether one AI model becomes super intelligent, ask whether a massive coordinated group of AI agents becomes super intelligent together. Humans already do this. A corporation solves problems no individual employee could, but human group intelligence is slow and messy. Communication is limited, coordination is hard, organizations become bureaucratic. AI collectives could share information at speeds we cannot imagine, spawn specialists instantly, run thousands of parallel experiments, form temporary teams for specific problems, and dissolve them. ASI might not look like one giant mind. It might look like a vast, self-organizing digital organization. The paper then goes into what it calls fictions, the things that could slow or stop this. The data wall, physical resource constraints like energy, chips, and manufacturing capacity. The possibility that neural networks simply are not sufficient for AGI regardless of scale. Research getting harder as fields mature and low-hanging fruit disappears. What it calls the abstraction barrier, the worry that AI trained on human representations might struggle to invent genuinely new ways of thinking rather than just combining existing concepts, and deliberate slowdown through regulation and political pressure if AI causes accidents or social disruption. The deeper message of the whole paper is not a prediction. It is an honest statement of genuine uncertainty, not ignorance, genuine uncertainty about which pathway dominates, where progress plateaus, and what the frictions actually amount to. The authors are forcing a shift in the conversation. Stop treating AGI as a single finish line. If it arrives, the next question will not be, are we done? It will be, what does this make possible next? And what OpenAI is doing right now with ChatGPT looks like a very practical attempt to start answering that question at the product level. Let's have a look. And as we move to the most crucial portion of the video, just hit that like button and press the lonely subscribe button as well. Now this is really big. One of OpenAI's senior employees said recently that the era of using AI just for chatting is over. That is a striking line coming from the company that basically invented AI chatbots for the mainstream. According to multiple reports, OpenAI is rolling out a major overhaul of ChatGPT over the coming weeks. The goal is to turn it from a place where people type questions into something much closer to an AI layer that runs across your digital life, handling coding tasks, image generation, third-party apps, workplace automation, personal scheduling, and enterprise services. The engine behind that shift is the powerful GPT models coupled with Codex. Thibaut Satio, the OpenAI executive leading core products and platforms, described the future version as something you connect to through your phone, desktop, or browser, something you can talk to while driving. The vision is not a chatbot you open when you need it. It is a personal agent that is already aware of your context and can handle tasks without you having to manage every step. Here is how this plays out practically. After connecting your email or Slack, you dictate a request and Codex drafts the message, selects the recipient, and waits for your confirmation before sending. After connecting a calendar plugin, you can ask about upcoming meetings or pull background on attendees. You can set a morning workflow that runs at 8 a.m. every day, scans your inbox, checks your calendar, and pushes your most urgent tasks. The shift is from answer my question to handle this task. And Satio believes even the visible buttons and manual tool selection will eventually fade. The model should understand what you want and decide whether to run it locally, through Codex, through a plugin, or through some other tool without you having to specify. Now, the numbers behind Codex explain why OpenAI is betting so heavily on this direction. Weekly active users passed 5 million at the end of May. Sam Altman said usage is growing 5% per day. Enterprise Codex revenue increased 50% week over week in recent reporting. Google search interest for Codex hit a record high in mid-May and passed Claude Code for the first time. The user base has grown six-fold since the desktop app launched in February in under 2 months. One detail from Notion engineer Veron Ralph stuck with me. While he and his colleagues were building a tool, Codex had been silently fixing a bug every time it ran. They only realized the bug had existed for weeks when they tried other agents that did not catch it automatically. That kind of experience turns a tool into infrastructure. You stop thinking about it as a product you use and start thinking of it as part of how your work runs. OpenAI also launched Lockdown Mode this week, designed for users and organizations handling sensitive data. It restricts web browsing, file downloads, deep research, agent functions, and networking, specifically to reduce prompt injection risks, where malicious instructions are hidden inside content the AI reads. Not designed for everyone, but a real enterprise need that Anthropic has not yet formally addressed in the same way. And then there is the talent story, which tells you something about the competitive pressure underneath all of this. Clive Chan, described as employee number 2 on OpenAI's self-developed chip project, announced on X that he left OpenAI and joined Anthropic. He spent 2 years on OpenAI's chip effort, watched the project grow from its early formation, called the team one of the strongest chip design teams in the world, and then left anyway. His summary was one line: "It's time to build." Anthropic employees welcomed him publicly. People online noted that basically every "I have decided to leave OpenAI" post now ends the same way. At the same time, OpenAI reportedly shut down Sora, its video generation product, less than a year after launch, and put the ChatGPT shopping checkout feature on hold. Resources are moving. So, the strategy is pretty much visible. Enterprise tools, coding agents, and services people pay for over consumer features built on hope. There are a few things worth being straight about before we wrap up. On the DeepMind paper, the 4 pathways and 6 frictions are a framework for thinking, not a prediction. The authors are explicit about this. They do not claim to know which pathway dominates or whether any of the bottlenecks become absolute walls. The paper's value is in the quality of its uncertainty, how clearly it maps what we do not know, more than any specific timeline it implies. On ASI specifically, the paper is careful to note that even a superintelligence system would still face real constraints. Physics does not stop applying. Computation costs energy. Physical systems take time to manipulate. Some problems are genuinely chaotic and unpredictable. The jump from ASI to omnipotence is not supported by anything in the paper. That needs saying because a lot of coverage will skip it. On the ChatGPT numbers, the 5 million weekly active users and the 50% week-over-week enterprise revenue growth are figures reported through second-hand sources, not OpenAI's own official disclosures. The direction is clear and the underlying growth is credible, but treat the specific figures as reported estimates rather than verified financial data. On Sora reportedly being shut down, this has not been officially confirmed by OpenAI. It is reporting from sources. The strategic direction it implies, moving resources toward enterprise coding tools, is consistent with everything else OpenAI is doing, but the Sora shutdown specifically is still unconfirmed. So both of these things are happening simultaneously, right now, in the same week. Tell me in the comments which of the 4 ASI pathways you think is most likely to dominate, or you think OpenAI's super app vision actually changes how we work. Subscribe to my channel and never miss any crucial AI update. And do you know about the new Claude Fable alternative? Watch this video showing up on the screen to find that out. See you there.